Hello everybody, my name's Aaron Jolly from the Centre for English Teaching at Sydney University, and welcome to my Bright Ideas Video Challenge entry. Today I'm wearing sunglasses because it's very bright, which is perfect for this video, and I'm here at Sydney University. Beautiful day. Let's get rocking.
So, Aaron, how did the project start?
Well, this project emerged from my classroom, and I think a lot of interesting, innovative projects that I've seen in the past emerge from the classroom, and I'm always looking for ideas that I can take out of the classroom and hopefully do some sort of evidence-based or action research, ad hoc action research to improve the way that I deliver programs or courses. And thankfully this one worked out well enough that the managers and other teachers at CET suggested that we could roll it out in other classes. Originally this started because one of my students, Eric, had a really massive improvement from watching the TED Talks that I'd provided to him and the other people in the class as a reaction to them saying that they were having really big problems with the long listenings that are part of the tests for the direct entry course. So sometimes these listenings, lectures or similar content to that, can even be 15 minutes long, and students have to take notes for the entire listening and then use those notes in a 20-minute listening test. Students are very intimidated by the length of the listenings, and they often really had no idea about how to take notes and listen to the rest of the content as it was going on. So for example, using abbreviations or shortening words and things like that, very hard for students to do. They simply had not had enough practice with the content. And as research suggests, time on task is really probably the number one factor in terms of language improvement. It makes sense. If you want to do something well, you need to do it a lot. Problem is access to the materials and what kind of materials that they might use. And whilst there are a lot of different kinds of materials out there for extensive listening, I chose TED Talks because of the variety of the talks that were available, the variety of pronunciations and accents, and also because TED provides scripts both in English and in other languages, so it's easy for students to review after they've watched.
Aaron, tell us about the stages of development of the project.
Well, there are actually 4 stages to the development of this project. Stage 1, as I mentioned, emerged out of my Dec 15 class, where students had come to me and asked for extra listening materials. And so I tried this out as an optional part of the class. I showed them how you could use a TED Talk, explained the strategies for doing that, which I'll talk more about later, and then they were able to do it if they wanted to. Only a few students really did it in the way that I'd suggested, but one student in particular had a massive improvement on his next listening test and said that his notes had really improved so much. After that, and when the students saw his improvement, they all started doing it pretty much, almost all of the students, like 17 out of 18. Some of them probably started too late to see an improvement right away. Later, after the course finished, that particular student, Eric, sent me an email thanking me profusely and saying how listening had been the biggest difficulty for him in his English learning, and how that the TED Talks and the method that I taught him had really changed his confidence for listening anyway. So that gave me confidence to try stage 2 with an entire class. And so the following year in the Dec 25 class, I made all my students do it, and I told them they had to watch 1 TED Talk video a day, and then they would come into the class and they would discuss the video with other students in the class. Before they did that, they had to go on the discussion board and they had to answer 3 very brief questions. The first question was to give a very brief summary of the talk they watched. Secondly, to rate the difficulty of the talk. And thirdly, to say whether or not they would try to convince somebody else to watch the talk and why. When they came into the class, they basically would meet other students one-to-one for 5 minutes at a time, for 15 or 20 minutes, and basically discuss the same things that were on the discussion board. And I found really rich discussions emerging. Some students over 1 week were watching 7 to 10 TED Talks, and amongst the 18 students in 1 week, they watched something like 81 TED Talks combined, and I was just really blown away. Several of those students told me that their listening was improving. I noticed that their note-taking skills were definitely improving, and it went really well. After that, after getting approval from the managers, we ran a bigger pilot, and this is stage 3, and this is where I began to work with my colleague Keren Stead-Bomfim. And Keren designed 5 screencasts with different aspects of listening skills that students could focus on as they were doing the TED Talks, including note-taking, predicting, and other research-informed strategies for improving your listening skills.
Can you tell us more about the particular TED Talks that were chosen?
Sure. Well, in the initial pilot, I didn't choose any particular TED Talks because I come from an extensive reading and extensive listening background. I really wanted the students to be able to choose the videos that they wanted to choose on the topics that they wanted to listen to. I did show them how you could search in TED by topic. I did also tell them that probably initially they should try to choose a 5 to 9 minute TED Talk so that they could focus on their note-taking skills without getting too tired out by doing a really long talk. In addition to this, for the very first one, I did choose one talk and asked them to all watch the same talk. I chose one that I thought would be really interesting to them about multi-talented people doing all kinds of multi-talented things, and I thought that would appeal to my students. Very interesting presenter. The presenter didn't speak too fast, too slow, it wasn't too long. I used that video initially because I wanted them to build confidence and I wanted to be able to deconstruct the video that they'd all watched. After that, I let them choose any video that they wanted to watch themselves, basically according to their own interests. But I also, in response to a couple of the students saying to me, come on, Aaron, can you please suggest some for us? We don't know where to start. I selected about 5 to 10 TED Talks on the topics that match the themes of the DEC course that they were studying in, so students might meet similar topics to what they could be tested on or read about, and maybe even see some similar vocabulary that might come up in the course, in the readings or the listenings, and maybe even in the listening test itself. After stage 2 of the project, again I got unsolicited emails from 2 or 3 of the students who'd done really well on their listening test, saying that they really believed that their TED Talk listening, and they'd been watching 1 or 2 every day, or one of the people had been doing, she said, 5 to 8 a week, had shown like a marked improvement. And of course that was only self-reporting, but again, when you get unsolicited emails from students after they finish studying with you and there's nothing in it for them by contacting you, I think that's a pretty good affirmation of a program or a way of doing listening or anything. Furthermore, after that, when we went to stage 3 of the project and we rolled out the action research with my colleague Keren Stead-Bomfim, we did it in a much more organised way. So we've got pre-course, we did a pre-course survey with the students, and we also did a post-course survey. And I'll just read you some of the comments from the post-course survey. So I think these materials are very easy to understand and follow. Now I have more confidence to have a try with my listening. I can follow a speaker much better after watching these TED Talks. My listening skills have really improved. Practice more and then you will gain more. I listen to a TED Talk every day now. I've improved. I've watched a lot of TED Talks. In my opinion, it's very useful and really helped my listening skills. These videos were really great, really useful, and now I'm sure I can continue to make progress with my listening. Bearing in mind that this was in DEC 25, so after this was over, these students still had 15 more weeks of their direct entry course to go before they went to university. So I think both my initial research that I did in an ad hoc way and the few students who responded, and later when we did it in a more organised way, the feedback from students has been very, very positive and really encouraging, because both myself and Keren obviously put a lot of our own time into doing this, and it's good to see the results kind of match the effort.
What did the series of screencasts include?
Well, luckily for us, Keren did quite a lot of research on this and found out kind of 6 very important points for improving your listening using extensive or intensive listening materials in a combined way. The first screencast basically introduced why TED Talks were a useful way to practice your listening, and also some very basic note-taking skills, as well as the method that we were recommending that students used, which meant that the first time they listened to the talk, they didn't look at the screen, they just listened and tried to make notes on what they heard. The second time around, they would repeat that and see if they could improve their notes, or start with a blank paper and compare their second notes to their first notes. Then for the third listening, they had options. They could either watch the talk and just enjoy the talk and see what else they noticed. They could listen again and read the script in English. They could possibly even look at the script in their own language because of course TED has transcripts in most of the languages around the world, so it's a really good way to check the meaning of content if you wanted to. The other talks included using TED Talks to improve your note-taking skills. So this was really focused with an example TED Talk and example notes that Keren created so that students would be able to possibly model their note-taking on that approach. The next one was reflecting on your listening. The next one was planning and monitoring your listening. So this was a look at using predictions, and the research shows that if you plan and predict what you're going to hear when you watch something, that improves your listening later. And this is like something that's also recommended to students when they're doing listening tests. Try to predict what you're going to hear and think about how you're going to make notes for that, what key things you might hear. There was also a screencast on reflecting on your listening and your note-taking. So then taking that deeper and thinking about how well you're listening and how well you're doing the note-taking. There was also a screencast on the structure of lectures, which looked at signposting language and how you can follow the structure and how these are organized to help your listening. And finally, again, focus on note-taking, a real kind of detailed look at using abbreviations and symbols in your note-taking to improve your note-taking. Well, thanks very much for listening or watching this entry to the Bright Ideas Video Challenge. If you have any questions at all, don't forget to get in touch. My name's Aaron Jolly, aaron.jolly@sydney.edu.au. And remember, the future's so bright, you got to wear shades. Bye for now.